Hi everyone, my name is Bridget Colling. I am the writer of Technology Shapes History, and today I'm starting a new project called Want Your Job, where I have conversations with people about what they do and how they got there. I've had a lot of professional interests and experiences in my life, and I'm always interested to hear how people got to the jobs that they love and do today. And so my first guest is going to be Pat Cuttica. He is a product marketing specialist at Sprout Social, and so Pat, I'd like to know a little bit more. What does a product marketing specialist at Sprout do?
Yeah, thanks, Bridget. As a product marketing specialist, I really think about my role kind of in three buckets. Those three buckets are positioning and messaging of the product, then the product itself and product launches, and then the third would be what we call sales enablement. So a little bit about those three. Positioning and messaging is really, what it sounds like. It's kind of just owning the positioning and the messaging for our product, and that boils down to being able to tell compelling stories about the product. So that can be in the form of blog posts or thought leadership pieces, case studies, and it can be more, simple things like writing website copy or writing positioning statements, themselves. The product and the product launches, that really just boils down to being an expert on our product and understanding our customer base. So that's everything from kind of customer segmenting and understanding how different buckets of our customers use our product and why they use it. And then the launches is again what it sounds like. So coming up with go-to-market strategies and also internal communication. So making sure everybody on the team and different parts of the organization understand what the value proposition is and why we're launching certain features or certain products. And then those two things kind of, manifest themselves in a way in this sales enablement, which at the end of the day is just ensuring that our sales team, and it really goes beyond sales, it's a lot of other parts of the organization, so whether that be support or other marketing functions, but that everyone is trained and equipped to kind of tell the right stories. And to be able to articulate our value proposition and to understand where we fit into the market, right? So it's important to know that, obviously we have competitors and obviously we're part of like a bigger industry, and it's kind of our role to own that and to make sure everybody knows where we fit in. Yeah.
And we should mention too, so Sprout Social is a social media management company. Can you tell people a little bit more about what Sprout Social does and why it's unique?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a social media management and engagement platform. We really think that we power social communication for businesses. So we, do everything from allowing you to publish to all of your social channels from one platform, to bringing in all of your social messages into a single inbox so that you can engage with those messages as well. And then, we also have really powerful reporting, so you can get everything from network level reporting to team reporting as well. So there's the other function I would say that's really powerful and differentiating within Sprout is the collaborative feature. So it allows if you have a team of 5 people or 50 people working on your social strategy in varying roles. Some people may be publishing content, some approving content, some just kind of managing. We have a lot of great collaboration tools to allow teams of any size to kind of work together on social for your business.
Very cool. And so before you were working in social media, you were actually a derivatives trader for 5 years, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I love hearing stories from people who started out in one direction and then totally pivoted and did something different, but then are doing that thing really successfully and loving it. At least you seem to be loving it. So I'd love to hear about why you made that switch and if you ever had any doubts as to whether or not it was the right move for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a sort of an interesting career path. Yeah, I studied economics in college, and I have older brothers who were in finance and in trading. So it was kind of just one of those things where I just followed suit, and I really was interested in it, and I still am, and I learned a lot, and I enjoyed it. But after a little over 5 years of trading equity derivatives, I just by no means felt like I had learned everything. And in fact, I felt every day I felt like, oh my gosh, I have so much more to learn, which was cool and enticing to want to stay around. But The thing I think it boiled down to was I didn't feel like I was necessarily using the creative side of my brain as much.
Hmm.
I definitely am a very analytical person, numbers driven, and I enjoy that. But I wanted to kind of get into something that was a little bit more creative. And startups and digital marketing and social media was kind of just where I fell into, and it felt natural. I've always been kind of a tech geek, and so. Yeah, that's sort of how it happened. And no, I've never had any doubts in the last 2.5 years, 3 years since I left finance. In fact, I'm just continually amazed at how much of what I learned in trading actually applies to digital marketing. And I think that's a sign of where digital and social and all that kind of stuff is going. It's very analytical and data driven, but with the creative element as well.
Hmm. What are some of those things that you learned that you think in trading derivatives that you think apply to social media and marketing?
Yeah, good question. I think one is just that being data driven is really important, and understanding, collecting data and analyzing it, and allowing that to inform decisions. But understanding that that's not the end all be all. That there's broader stories around and broader motivations around why consumers or businesses make decisions or do things. And so while data is part of it, I think that it's important to understand the other side of that as well. Another thing I think, just like skill wise, is obviously thinking on your feet, being quick. Maybe responding, not reacting. So not being so impulsive to react to things, but being able to respond in a calculated way. That's definitely something that's important in trading, and I think it's true in marketing as well.
That's cool. I never recognized all those overlaps. I mean, obviously, I haven't worked in trading, but even with my, minor knowledge of finance, it's cool to hear all of that overlap. And it definitely, I think it gives a level of seriousness to social media and marketing that I think can sometimes feel lacking, at least from people who are on the outside looking in. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And so a similar question that I have, you mentioned studying economics in college, and after snooping through your LinkedIn, I saw you also studied history. So I'm wondering if you see ways, I mean, economics seems like it has very clear connections to, especially related to e-commerce and tracking, people's, tracking your audience and things like that. But I'm very interested to see if you see other ways that economics and history relate to the work you do, especially in the social sciences and humanities side of things.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I think having the economics and finance background has sort of trained me to be data driven, and rely on numbers and analytics and stuff. But I think the history side, so first of all, the way that even happened was I found out my senior year that I was a couple credits short of being able to graduate with a history degree as well, just because I had been filling up all of sort of my empty class space, I guess, with history classes that I was interested in. So it wasn't necessarily by design. I kind of fell into that. But I think what that history degree did for me was, help me hone like my writing skills for sure, and then just like understanding the appreciation for storytelling, and then understanding the broader story around why certain things happen, why people act in a certain way, or which definitely maps to like customer segmentation and understanding customers' motivations and things like that. So I think, like, I guess more broadly speaking, economics, history, how does that tie into marketing? I think that there's an artistic and a scientific side to marketing, and I think that both of those backgrounds helped me kind of hone both of those areas, I guess.
That's awesome. I love hearing more about how people take subjects that don't seem like they'd be directly related to marketing or other jobs that seem more like you need a specific degree for. I had my mom ask me a lot, Bridget, don't you think you need a marketing degree if you're going to go into marketing? Because I studied anthropology and sociology. But it's just interesting to find the ways that you can pull in a lot of marketing insights from a lot of different subjects.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like, we all get marketed to, right? So we're all consumers, and so I think being able to make the leap to being on the other side of that and understand how to market to people, being empathetic to I am a consumer myself, and so I think that I can understand how I would love to be marketed to or not marketed to. So I think being able to sort of play both sides or at least learn from both sides is helpful, and some people that's interesting to, and some people it's not, and I think that's why some people get into marketing maybe.
Yeah, I totally agree. So different question. Were there any experiences that you had either in college or afterwards, or any people who you met that you felt like were really pivotal in sending you down this path to becoming a marketer working specifically with social media software and having experience with social media?
Yeah, like I said, I definitely was sort of influenced and followed in the footsteps of my brothers in getting into finance and all that stuff. But then, in terms of the transition from finance to marketing, when I left the trading firm I was at, I was lucky enough to I have a really good friend that was a teammate of mine in college, and I've remained close with since then, who started a digital agency here in Chicago called Color Jar. And they do web design, web development, app development, stuff like that, and really on the creative and building side. And he just kind of took me in and said, hey, if you need some desk space, just come and you can job hunt or figure out what your next move is from our office. And so when I started doing that, he started taking me to meetings and meeting some of his clients. And so I think just that whole experience of him kind of, that networking that was just natural because he was a buddy of mine, and he kind of was like, hey, it might make sense for you to just see another world, outside of finance, which I was already interested in. And he took me to a lot of meetings, one of them which led to my first gig at Social Katie. But I will say one of them that sticks out in my mind that I don't know if I would call it pivotal, but it definitely kind of blew me away was he had a meeting at Google here in Chicago, and it was some project that they were contracted on to work with one of the creative teams at Google, and it was the first time and the only time I've been in the Google office, and just seeing that side of the marketing world, or just seeing like that type of company, and that really blew me away. I was like, wow, yeah, I want to be in this industry. I want to be working with people like this. So yeah, that one kind of sticks out in my mind, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gosh, I wish I visited the Google Chicago offices. I'm sure they have some incredible decor and food and people.
Yeah, pretty cool spot.
Yeah. So if anyone out there who is watching this or reading the transcript of this is thinking, wow, that job as a product marketing specialist at Sprout sounds really cool, or just being a marketer in general, working with tech and social media sounds like something that's interesting, what's one thing that you would recommend that they do in order to prepare them for a role in a job like yours?
Yeah, I guess I would just say read a lot, which maybe sounds like a cop-out, but what I do, I read and I play with products. So it's so easy now to, you can download as many apps as you want. In general, they're usually free. For business solutions, a lot of times they offer free trials. There's ways to play with a lot of products, and I'm just generally interested in that. And I think getting your hands dirty and learning that way is really valuable. And on the read side, I know that sounds very vague, but there's so much content out there these days, and it's so accessible to the point where it's almost a problem. I've found that for me, Twitter is my portal to the internet, and it's my portal to products and marketing and everything. You can find interesting articles, interesting people and influencers to follow, which lead to books and other products and all sorts of stuff. So I'm kind of a Twitter nerd. I'm on there all day, following people and finding new content. And I think that's if I was that's sort of how I got into the industry and got interested. And I think if I were to give advice to somebody, that's how it worked for me. So I would probably tell them to kind of do the same thing.
What are some of your favorite websites to read that you think are most helpful?
So I've been visiting Product Hunt every day for a while now, which is sort of like a Reddit for just products and product designers and new apps and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. I guess I read one of the blogs I like is called Near and Far. It's Near EL, who's a product guy. Yeah, I think I read a lot of I think I read a lot of like VC type stuff, which maybe ties into my finance background too. But reading about why certain investors choose to invest in certain products and why they choose to invest in certain broader industries and segments, so that really interests me. Yeah, I don't know, but as far as books, maybe that's more relevant just because I've read a couple product and those types of books lately. So I'm reading How Google Works right now, which is really interesting, not just from a product standpoint, but from like a startup and just digital standpoint. I read a book called Smart Cuts recently by one of the guys that works at Contently, which is a really interesting read as well. And I just ordered, and it should be arriving today, a book by that guy that I mentioned, Near EL, called Hooked, which is about like creating habit-forming products. So how you get people to like come back and use your product over and over again. So that's kind of what I've been digging into lately, I guess.
Cool. Those all sound great. And when I put this on the blog, I'm going to have to include links to all of those so people can check them out.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I do have one last question for you that I just thought of. I'd love to know, what is your absolute most favorite part of your job?
Great.
Which I know I didn't send you beforehand, so you had to think
No.
about it for a second.
Great question. I guess again, this may seem like a cop out, but I would say the people. I mentioned to you that my manager and who I get to sit next to and work with every day is a woman who worked at Google for 6 years in product marketing and just has like a wealth of experience and knowledge that I don't think I'd get anywhere else. The rest of the broader marketing team is just so talented, so experienced, and I get to work with like product designers and engineers, and so I think that my favorite part is I get to come in every day and work with really smart people who are also really passionate about tech, and not just social media, but just products and tech in general. And yeah, that just makes it exciting to come to work every day.
Awesome. Well, that is a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Pat, for being my inaugural Want Your Job guest. And I'm sure that I will probably have this up on my website soon. So thank you, everyone who is watching. And if you have any questions for Pat, please leave them as a comment on the blog, and I will be sure to send them his way. All right.
Cool. Thanks, Bridget.
Yep. Thanks, Pat.
All right.